All right, let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Showalter.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
Redland.
Here.
Thompson.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. We'll move into public comment. I believe we have one person signed up. We have Jerry Becker. If you would come up to the microphone, please. Good evening.
Can you hear me fine?
We can hear you. Yes, sir.
I've been here almost 7 years, and from time to time I run into the post office, dash out, go about my way. A couple months ago, I was riding shotgun with my wife, so I had to sit in the car while she ran in. And I noticed that the front yard of the post office is all dirt. So I started having conversations. I know some of the mail carriers and some of the other people who work in there. And they explained to me that about 6 years ago, the water pipes froze, and they've never been fixed. And it seemed like the postmaster had no real interest in fixing them. So I think for such a historic building and a showpiece for the city, or what could be, I think we need to do something about that yard. My first thought was to write to our, representative in Washington, have him kind of get after the post office. But then today, one of the employees suggested there's a state senator, and I've never heard of him till today, but he actually lives in Goodland.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran off without his name, but since you guys are nodding your heads, you know
Yep,
who
Rick
he is.
Dillinger.
I would suggest maybe somebody from this board, maybe somebody from the county, because the post office is for the county as well, meet with him and just kind of, because he's going to be your point man, and just see what he needs for help, or, get some ideas going back and forth that we can kind of take care of this. The employee that told me today about him said that, because I expressed an interest that this could take forever, bureaucracies be what they may. And he said, no, he took care of something down in Sharon Springs in about 3 weeks. So maybe we could get this going before, the heat of the summer. So and one employee said, I wouldn't even mind if it was concreted just instead of dirt. So I was thinking, well, maybe you could bring the borders in with concrete and then maybe do pavers in the center, kind of give it a little visual mix of colors. Maybe do a 2-foot strip in front of the building where you could put ornamental grasses or some type of shrubs. I'm not a landscaper, but just some ideas I've been kind of kicking around. But I'd just like to see something done to that, for 6 years it's just been dirt. It just doesn't show Goodland at its best. Another thing I noticed in the newsletter today is plug for Arbor Day. And I've learned that the Chinese elms and the locusts are pretty much at the end of their lifespan. But we really don't have a program citywide to help people replace these trees. There's a place in Colby where you can get trees, but it's kind of small.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking if the city maybe did something every other year just to see the interest where people could prepay for trees that were selected from a list of trees that are suited for this climate. And then the city would pick them up. We'd probably have to go to the Front Range of Denver because that's where all the landscaping is going on, where the tree farms are. And in the fall, pick them up because they always have those sales in the fall to kind of clear out their inventory and bring them back. And so we could start planting trees for our grandkids and kids. Instead of having all these trees cut down, then we look pretty naked, vegetation-wise. Mm-hmm. And maybe some of this, high school kids could volunteer to plant for like fundraisers for some of these people that may be too old or can't plant, or maybe Northwest Tech kids could do something like that. But there's all kinds of ideas, and I'll be glad to, if there's a committee that you guys hand this off to, I'd be glad to sit on them. I used to serve a couple terms on a homeowners board in the Denver area, which was about double the population here of Goodland, so kind of not new to the system. But whatever, just wanted to express that. I think it's something that's easy for the city to do. And I think it would help this town. That's it.
Okay. Well,
Thanks, sir.
thanks for taking the time and coming down and speaking your concerns and let us know what you think as far as boards. We do have a board. Not sure it's not, used to have an actual tree board, but I think it's part of another board kind of now, isn't it?
It's park and trees.
Park and trees. So we do actually have a board that's supposed to kind of look
Come up
into
with
that
those
sort of
ideas?
stuff. So if we have an opening and, if you had something you wanted to join in and be part of, that would be awesome.
Yeah, give me their contact information and start at the bottom and work our way up.
Yeah, I would recommend just coming down anytime during the day, during the open hours, and talking with Kent or Mary there, and they'll get you the information you need.
Who's them?
That's-
right there.
Yeah,
All right, I can do that.
okay.
So-
But yeah, I agree, it would be nice for the post office to look a little nicer and maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. So, whatever.
All right,
All right,
great.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
nice, thank you.
All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. We have the 3/20/23 commission meeting minutes, the 3/29/23 special commission work session minutes, and the appropriation ordinances 2023-07, 2023-07A, and 2023-P07. Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns on those tonight?
I move that we approve the consent agenda items A, B, and C.
Have a motion by Commissioner Redlin,
I'll second that.
a second by Commissioner Howard. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes,
Redlin,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to presentations and proclamations. We've got 2 proclamations tonight, starting with a proclamation for the Goodland Cowgirls basketball team, who are once again the state champions. And the proclamation reads as, whereas the city of Goodland celebrates the winning title of state champions for the Goodland Cowgirls basketball team and wishes to honor them for their hard work, dedication, and athleticism. And whereas the Goodland, Kansas Cowgirls varsity basketball team won Saturday's neutral state championship playoff game against Cheney by a score of 59-37. And whereas head coach Bill Bierman and the entire coaching staff, team member parents, faculty, and student body at Goodland High School were integral in guiding the team to victory throughout their unwavering support. And whereas citizens of Goodland and fans of Goodland High School athletics are proud of the accomplishments thus far of the Goodland Cowgirls basketball team. And whereas the city of Goodland commends the Goodland Cowgirls for their teamwork, athleticism, and grace in the sport of basketball, and wishes them well in their future endeavors. Now, therefore, I, Aaron Thompson, Mayor of Goodland, and the entire City Commission do heartily congratulate the Goodland Cowgirls varsity basketball team and recognize April 3rd as Goodland Cowgirls State Championship Day. And we don't have anybody. Nobody. Not Tuesday. Aha. On to the next thing already. Second proclamation is for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week of April 9th through 15th, 2023. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone Sherman County 911 communications. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of Sherman County 911 communications have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Therefore, be it resolved that the City Commission of Gideon, Kansas declares the week of April 9th through 15th, 2023 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in honor of the women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. Signed this 3rd day of April, 2023. All right. Would you like to come up for a picture? Anybody want to take a picture? Come on, guys. Hurry up.
Anything done. We'll hold.
I thought you were going to go in. I'll take a picture.
Okay. Next thing, we have a 2024 budget request for Western Kansas Child Advocacy with Don Rivera. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Let those get passed around here before I kind of, first of all, thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming.
Probably one of the most valuable things we all have, so first of all, I'm not sure if you folks are familiar with our organization. We're kind of a secret unless your life has been impacted by some sort of child abuse, unfortunately. We work very closely with law enforcement, Department of Children and Families, with interviews, advocacy, also assisting the families with any other needs that the child might have throughout their court process when a report of child abuse has kind of come across, when it's been reported to law enforcement or DCF. That includes forensic interviews, and also after the trauma, after we get through court and things like that, therapy afterward, to kind of hopefully ensure the safety of the child, getting into adulthood, those kind of things, and hoping that we can establish good groundwork and a good foundation for them to become an amazing adult. So, since its inception in 2004, we have interviewed over 6,275 children. 80% of the cases that kind of come through our door are sexual abuse, unfortunately. We do service 34 counties. That you folks have that map there as well. We have an office out of Scott City, Liberal, Colby, Hayes, Garden City, and Haskell County as well. We also have one, as well as on top of 6 mobile units, which are RVs that we've kind of retrofitted to be therapy rooms, and then 2 of those RVs happen to be medical. If there's any sort of medical interview or interview that needs to be done to check for any sort of physical abuse there as well. That being said, I do have the stats for your county here as well. In your county, we've seen 92 children with a total of 658 services. So we are out here and will continue to be out here as long as needed. And then the map is kind of just a general where we offer services. However, if we are called, absolutely we're there. We're loading RVs, we're going to make sure, obviously, to make sure that we can hopefully meet the children, meet the family, and start the process, hopefully, of healing. So that's who we are. That's who we are, Western Kansas Child Advocacy. We work very closely with Chief Frankie here as well, and also your sheriff here as well in town. That's kind of who we are as an organization. That's what we're doing. The mobile units make it an excellent way, especially to get out to some of the rural communities. It's hard. It's they're always kind of aren't the best thing I'm kind of good at, but usually if someone has to go for an hour for some sort of, whether it be medical or therapy session, things like that, 9 times out of 10, those families are not able to get there, or life gets in the way, things break down. Someone needs track cleats, something like that, and, unfortunately, things kind of get shifted around. And the most amazing thing about our organization, too, with the assistance of all of our other counties as well, too, we're able to provide all these services for free, so there's no cost to the family. And then if, child is, become an adult, and, sometimes when they have children, things kind of reignite some things. They come back in and they reach out to us, which is amazing. Hey, you're talking about it, though. We're here, we're discussing things, rather than, not being expressed, and those feelings are not taken care of. So just kind of it's a pretty nice feeling when it's nice that they acknowledge, hey, this is what's going on. They come back to see us again. So, and they say, hey, you've become an amazing adult, and you're taking care of things you need to take care of. So it's a nice feeling when that happens. So I have the pleasure of working with some very amazing, very caring, loving individuals. So.
Do you have a specific amount that you're requesting?
Last I had understood the requesting amount, I thought it was 2,000. I'll have to double check that for sure.
Okay.
That's what I believe is what it was. I don't have that on me.
And do you have any other municipalities that donate to your cause within your certain area?
So we do have some grant from federal grants. That's always one thing that's kind of shaky, because we always get these, they're going to be cut by 40% and expect more cuts down the road. So it's always kind of a little unnerving. Doesn't make us nervous necessarily, because we do service some amazing communities that I know will hopefully fill whatever gaps we need. But obviously, and then we'll make do with whatever needs done. And we do have some assistance out of the 34 counties as well too. We see those assistants as well too. So we do see some of those as well. I don't have that detailed breakdown with me, but so. I just came on with the organization here in February too, and I couldn't be prouder of a place to work with.
Well, I do know that I am. I personally know families who have received services from your organization, and I can, I can say that positive outcomes do definitely come out of the services that you provide. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions they want to ask this evening.
I'm curious, how long has the medical RV been in operation? That was that's new to me. I haven't heard that before.
Medical RV, I'm not sure on those stats for how long that's been operational, but from what I understand, that was one of the first deals. It's one of the first services that kind of got up and running, especially with some of the counties that don't have a SANE SART program. That our nurses and they're specialized in these kind of examinations. I know that was one of Kelly's top priorities, which Kelly is our founder. Kelly and Dave are our founders, and I know that was one of their top priorities, especially when that investigation kind of gets going. There's some very significant things that need to be talked about, need to be seen at that time. So.
When law enforcement needs some kind of a medical examination done, a lot of times they got to drive all the way to Hayes in this area. Mm-hmm. So having something that can be mobile and come out here, I can see would be something that would be a service that would be greatly utilized.
And we also do have a doctor on staff as well too.
Okay.
That I think she's on call essentially. So it's really nice. She's given her time to us, and we have that available too. So if we need to go, it's awesome that we have that at our disposal as well too.
And I think most people don't realize too that if you have a crime that involves a child, you can't just throw a rookie police officer in there to have them do an interview. The interviews that take place have to be done by highly trained professionals that you guys employ. So the things that you do and the services that you provide are extremely important to the citizens of Goodland and Sherman County. So, I don't know what we gave last year, but I would be in favor of doing the same thing this year and wishing you well and continuing the good work that you guys do. So. Do we know what that number is from last year for sure?
1,500.
It was 1,500, yeah,
Okay.
for 2023 budget.
I would motion that we continue with the $1,500 donation to the Western Kansas Child Advocacy Center.
Actually, it'll come up during the budget process. You can direct staff that That's the request.
Any other questions? All right, well,
Thank
Thank
you,
you
folks.
for what you
thank
did.
you for coming out. Appreciate it. Okay, we do not have any ordinances or resolutions tonight, so we will move on to formal actions, starting with A, the alternate number 1 from the snow removal equipment bid.
You see me 2 times in a row. Okay, so from the last meeting, when we opened the bids till this time, we had an airport board meeting, had let the airport board kind of discuss this too, as well as staff again. So what we've come back with as a recommendation is that both staff and the airport board would recommend going ahead and approving also the add alternate 1 for the snow blower. And so what I believe they have in their packets is that latest. Okay, I want to go through those color codings real quick so you understand where all the money's coming from and what your really out-of-pocket cost is. So I'm going to go through, since we're
29.
I'm going to go through the lower box, which is the one now we're looking at for the add alternate piece. Basically, if we go ahead and award the base and the add alternate, the total project costs are going to be $970,677. The first pots of money that is in the top yellow box. In $604,000 is currently what we have setting in the 2 different types of money at the FAA. So based on that 604 amount, the first city share is at $6,711. That's to match the 604. Then the box in the orange, that $299,000, it'd be what the city would theoretically have to carry until the FY24 monies became available later this year. But you're really not going to have to carry those because we don't pay for this stuff until it comes in. And right now, earlier today, I got with Doug Minson with Foley, and he said if you ordered today, the broom is 22 weeks, the loader is 32 weeks, and then both the snow blower and the plow are both 420 days. So we're the summer of 24 before those would even come in. So we're well into that budget or the FAA cycle of money where that other money would be available. So we say you have to carry that $299,000, but in all reality you won't, because that money will be way available before the equipment comes available, and we don't pay for it till we get it. So, so those lower boxes are then saying, hey, for FY24 money of BIO money, we're going to use the full $145,000 you guys are going to get for FY24, and your match on that's another $16,000, and then we end up using $124,609 of your non-permanent entitlement FY24 money, and your match on that would be the $13,845. So bottom line, those are the bottom numbers. $873,609 is what you're going to get from feds. $97,067 is what you guys locally will pay as a match for that to get all of this equipment. The recommendation from staff and the airport board concurred is if we can get this $240,000 snow blower at $24,000 basically at city cost, it's well worth it, because as Kenton has said, it's a 1990-ish model snow blower. We don't know how many more years it really has left in it, and this gives us something new that we know is going to last a while. So that was kind of the bottom numbers that you see on the left. I just wanted to kind of project those up there. You'll see that in FY25 you're still going to have $295,000 coming. In FY26 it'll be $295,000. The BIO money was the special infrastructure money, so it actually is going to go away with the 26 year. Which you can't see up there because it's kind of hidden, but on your sheets, FY27, there you go. It'll drop back to the $150,000. So starting in FY27. So you can see, even by expending this, we get out into those out years, you're still going to have money available for other airport projects.
Okay. How much do we have sitting in the airport fund currently? Do you know?
Between 375 and 400.
And also, because the SEAL project right now came in under budget, that you awarded awarded last time, the local match on it will be, as of right now, it's about half. Since we have that availability, we're gonna see if there's other areas. The paint number's not gonna change on that other project, because the square feet we have to paint is the square feet. But we could actually go out and we're gonna reevaluate and maybe do some extra sealing, but still, we will not hit what you had set aside for your local budget on that. So we kinda saved a little money on that one from that last time, so.
So, current snow blower that we have, how often does it get used and where does it get used at?
In the airport. We gotta have a little bit, like, the snow over the lights, and last time we used it was 2016, twice this year, really depends on how much snow we get.
And how much time do you think you save by having that snow blower versus just having to use the other equipment to clean out around the lights?
But I've never had to do that. I've never had to haul snow off there, but I guess it'd take us a long time. I'd say it'd take us at least 2 days just to get the snow out off the, just all of it.
I guess I have a hard time visualizing exactly what you mean by blowing the snow over the lights. I'm like,
Okay, so our runway is 100 feet wide. Can you just scroll back up the pictures? On the top part of this. Our runway is 100 feet wide. So depending on the size of snow we get, there's a snow blower. Depending on the size of snow we get at the time, if it's a lot of snow, they could actually start with this and actually use this on every pass on the runway. And so if I'm on the center line of the runway, it's 50 feet to the edge of pavement, it's another 10 feet to the lights. So we're 60 feet to the lights. And then we can't have a big pile of snow right outside the lights because of wingtip clearances. So we have to actually get it another 50 feet beyond that. So we need to get snow below the level of the top of the lights for 110 feet, okay? This snow blower here will throw 150 feet. The other one, the old one probably had that when it was new. I don't know what it'll throw now. I'm gonna say maybe 70 or 80. Yeah. The other option we have is not a huge snow. Scroll up to the picture right above this one, go up one more. This is the new plow you're gonna get. And in both sides, these cupping sections will hydraulically move. So you could actually take this full blade, put it all straight and tip it at a little bit of an angle and actually push, if it's not huge amounts of snow, you can actually push it closer to the end of the runway and then just run the snow blower up one pass to blow it over the top of the lights. So in other words, what we have to do is that the snow banks, drifts, piles have to be so that, number one, all of our wingtip clearances meet, so an airplane wouldn't actually hit any of those. Plus, they have to be visually be able to see the lights. So that's why we say get it out past the lights. If we just push piles to the edge of the pavement, all the lights are gonna be buried or where you can't see them.
Especially if you get multiple snows.
Right.
It's not, it's kind of, you can just picture when we rig things to the middle, that's how big we got on the side along the.
Yeah, if you think about what sometimes, and I don't know how big a snow you had this year, but I remember, back 15 years ago, so we had a couple snows where when we pushed up to the center of the street on Main Street, it was 10, 12 feet high, and that was only 50 feet wide. So you can think that same snow out at the airport, now we're 100 feet wide. That's a pretty huge pile of snow that we have to try to get rid of so it's not in the way of something.
so we don't have a good spot where we can just push it out of the way where we're not covering up lights.
The only thing you could do was you would have to push a lot of it to the side, and then you'd have to use this and try to push it about 50 or 60 feet out past the lights till we start getting down into the ditches. So you'd have to make a big push swing out, but you gotta make sure you don't hit those lights. Now, the lights are 200 foot apart, so that there's spacing between the lights. But yeah, you have to do that between every set of lights to get the pile out far enough.
And our current snow blower still works, right? It's just getting older.
It's 33 years old, so it's still functioning. Is it at its peak efficiency? Probably not. How many more years is it gonna go?
Well,
Because let's just say if all of a sudden we don't do this and you go 2 years down the road, it craps out. Now you're 238,000 of 100% city money, or at least this way, 90% of the money's coming from the feds. That was.
or we're taking a little more time and pushing things off a little bit differently to try to clear out the lights. I guess, I mean, I understand the appeal it is, to have it 90% paid for, to only buy one for $25,000 basically is what we would be paying. But I also try to look at everything, there's a ton of projects that the airport wants to accomplish over the next 10 years. At some point in time, like I said, in a couple of years, our funding is going to drop dramatically that we're getting. We're not banking any extra money right now and haven't been, and I don't know that we will be anytime in the near future. So at some point, the funds available is going to start coming down for some of these projects that are coming up. I know there's talk about how, there's a need for more buildings, which is going to have a need for more taxiways, things and stuff out there, stuff that's going to cost money. I look at, yes, we had more snow this year than we have had in a while. We used it a couple of times, but it's also the first time that we've used it in 7 or 8 years or whatever it's been, and it's still functioning. And we could get by without it if necessary. It would just take more time to clear the snow. So I'm just trying to weigh all those different things as to, even though on the surface it appears to be a good buy, is it really a necessary buy and something worth spending $25,000 on in the scheme of everything that we have coming up?
So you're still spending 247, because you can use that other money towards other airport projects. So,
Well, I just meant,
Yes, as long as, here's the one caveat to that point. As long as you can spend it on an approved project by the FAA.
Okay.
So, because that money can only be banked up to 4 years.
Okay.
So, let's just say we don't spend any of that FY24 money, we have till FY28 to spend that money on something, and it has to be something that's approved by them. So, yeah, you can't just randomly go build a hangar and use that money to build a hangar. It has to be a hangar that is approved by them that year.
okay.
So, yes and no. Yes, you have it to spend, you just have it to spend on approved projects.
Sure.
So,
Kenton, I guess I'll put you on the spot then, when we talk about spending money like this, I think we always ask ourselves the question, is it a need or is it a want? You're the one that's got to use it. Do we need it or do you want it?
Probably the biggest thing I see about the old snow blowers, it seems like every time you put it up, you have to fix it before you put it up. We have been spending, I don't have the dollars on, but it seems like when you put it up, broken every time. It does break down. It did break down on this one. We got back to the shop, we might fix it. We got it up and going for us. It does make me nervous, but at the same time, if it does break down, it is a necessity for the airport. And to me, for the city to come up with $250,000 when you have this opportunity, it will bite us in the butt. So it's kind of could be a win and it could be a lose. The other thing is even if this one does still work and we do have a significant snowstorm, we can use this one in town, not without the airport. You're technically not supposed to bring that one from the airport into town.
I think we touched on this last time. We could,
Emergency.
yeah, an emergency
Yeah.
situation, the airport
Yep.
manager could deem it, yeah, we could use it on the emergency routes. And the FAA is not gonna say anything about that when part of the reason for the airport is the other emergency pieces of the community, so.
Mhm.
I think under extreme conditions, any of this equipment could be used if it was necessary for emergency type purposes.
And I didn't talk to, I wasn't in on the airport board meeting, was everybody on board on that with that, or?
It was pretty solid discussion regarding it, regarding the snow blower, so.
Yeah, you know, Jeff, if you have any other concerns, maybe reach out to them, but those guys know what kind of necessity it is for that airport to be opened up. I mean, you got people Medlands in now there, for us to have that runway shut down for 3 days because we're in the snow versus 6 hours. It could be, we can look at it that way.
So it's a what-if situation.
It's a catch
I mean,
22.
Yeah.
It'd be nice that we have to use it a lot in the winter time to get the
Farmers would
moisture
say that too,
built
because
up.
that's that moisture that's sitting out there going into the ground, yes.
Uh-huh.
I'll say this, one of the first complaints that I took once I was elected to this position was a nurse that was concerned about how fast we could clear the airport. There was a plane that needed to get out, and she didn't feel like it was done or done correctly or whatever the case might have been. You know, come to find out, we were 100% on top of it, and there was no issue, but they were extremely worried that we were going to be able to have that airport cleared in time.
So just to give you kind of a refresher of what we go through to get to this point with picking this equipment, we just didn't randomly pick these sizes. The first thing we had to do is identify what the primary surfaces were out there for snow removal. And for your airport, it's the main runway, the parallel taxiway, so taxiway A in this case, the whole length, and then about half the apron is considered that primary. And then the crosswind runway and the rest of the apron are secondary. So that we can't count the secondary in this time or amount of snow. So then there's some tables and formulas you go through based on a bunch of different criteria, and it basically after you do all these little graph things, and you go here to go here and all that, it comes out and says, here's the minimum size plow width you need, here's the minimum size broom you need, and here's the minimum size snowblower. And they basically, we should be able to clear the primary surface, not necessarily the taxiway, but the runway and enough of the apron to get an aircraft maneuvered and airborne within 2 hours. And this particular snowblower that we sized will handle 1,500 ton an hour. And that's roughly using what Goodland's considered for the potential snowfall amount and weight of the snow. It's like 1,200 ton. This is slightly oversized, but the next one down is a 900 ton unit. So it wasn't big enough. So we're kind of right in between a couple units. So it's slightly oversized, but they don't make one that fits right on the dime. So with 2 hours is that critical number for our airport, at least for the runway and a little bit of apron. 6 hours for all the primary surfaces is our magic number that we shoot for by all the grids. Charts.
That's from the end of the storm, not from the middle of the storm.
That's from whenever you can get out there and start getting it removed, because obviously you're not going to, even with this equipment, you don't want to go out there while it's still blowing and try to clean something that's going to drip back in by the time you get to the other end of the runway.
And that statement's just regarding the expectation of when the surfaces are available for the people who actually use it. Because we just had with the last snow, somebody buzzed, they were out there in the very early morning hours and there was a plane buzzing, trying to check and see what the actual surface was like, and then landed just a bit later.
Just barely right after they just got done with the runway, they landed.
And that was actually personnel for the hospital, not taken from the hospital, but both occur fairly regularly.
The other thing with this plow, you can kind of see it in the picture here, it actually has polycarbonate blade on it, so they'll be able to run a little tighter on the pavement and hopefully get that last little. With steel blades, you don't want to run so tight that you damage the pavement, so you leave it up just a little bit, and so every now and then you'll get just a little bit of a sheen, and that would all that are.
Well, with our plow, when we take the plows out there,
The trucks.
yeah, the trucks, we'll get a thin layer and then it becomes slick. Versus if I have a grader on it, I can usually get the pack off and get the plow truck through. So it really depends on what kind of weather I got. But for, like,
I guess for me, my thought process changes a little bit when you say that you've had to work on that machine before to try to get it to work. I guess I consider the snowplow at the airport like I think about my ambulances and my fire trucks, my police cars. They're expensive. We don't like spending money on them, but when it comes right down to it, I want the newest ambulance that can come pick me up, and I want the best fire trucks, and those are the things that, you know, I think it's important that we spend our money on. And you know, if we have the opportunity to have the airport grant pay for the majority of it, then I think that's something that I'm in favor
I
of.
remember that snowplow we have. I remember Rich working on it. I think that was probably 2000. I'm looking at the DLC here, remembers it all. 2002, 2003 range, we had some big snows. And I remember the snow, we were using the blower down here on Main Street, and it took like 10 hours to do 2 blocks because it kept shear bolts and kept breaking off. So I don't know if it's that old design, and there's just parts on it that, you know, even when it was only 10 years old, didn't have a lot of
Yeah.
you could, if you got through a whole storm and nothing broke, you felt like you had a good day with that one.
Well, if I'm sitting on the Eagle Med plane on the tarmac, I don't want to wait for Kent and Levi to fix the snow blower. I want that runway.
And don't get me wrong, in an emergency situation, if you didn't have the blower, get a pile just past the lights. You know, Eagle Med, their wingtip's not going to be the issue. Once you can get stuff past the lights in any way, shape, or form, it's just then, you know, to get it done right so anybody can come in, you need to get that pile way on out there. So, I mean, there's a difference between emergency conditions and what it really needs to be to get back to open and functioning. So,
Thanks for your input.
not that helped any on your decision.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I guess while we're all sitting here in silence, I kind of want to maybe come back around to the comment about is the amount of time that it takes. You know, 6 hours versus 2 or 3 days. Are we looking at that as if we were to clear it off like you normally do and just push snow over the lights, it would take 2 more days to then clean all the snow off the lights?
It really depends on the depth of the snow, really.
It does.
Yeah.
And how heavy it
Just like
is.
Main Street here, this last snowstorm we had was, we had to get snowstorm. It took us all day with 2 trucks just to haul snow off the Main Street. All day. Just off that one snow there. And, I mean, that run was way longer than Main Street.
Well, the runway would be the same length as, say, 17th up to about 3rd or 4th range is the length, but then you're twice as wide as Main Street is. Give you an idea.
So how much space is between the lights?
200 feet.
Between each light?
There's 200 feet on the edge lights. You can't push snow off the ends with a runway because there's a set of 8 lights right 10 feet off the end of each runway. So you can't push straight out. It's not like you could, you know, get to the end of the runway and just keep pushing another 200 foot out in the grass. No, you can't do that. You'll wipe out the end lights. So basically what you'd have to do if you wanted to push out around them is you'd have to, all along the sides it's 200 feet. So basically what you'd have to do is you'd be taking this and you'd go along, and about every 200 feet you'd have to push it out.
Turn it off and push it
Push
out of
it
the
out
way.
into the grass 60 feet.
Okay.
Back up, do it again. When you get up 200 feet, push it out again. I mean, that would be the alternative. And then it all depends. If it's a heavy enough or big enough snow, you might not get 200 feet before your bucket's full. If it's a lighter snow, you might make it to 200 feet.
Okay. I would entertain a motion.
Motion that we approve alternate number 1 for the snow removal equipment bid for a new snow blower.
Do you need the dollar amount?
I don't have it in front of me. Do you have that?
Are we doing just the amount for the snow blower, or are
Well,
we
you already,
redoing the whole?
so I'm not sure how, I'm gonna ask to look at Mary and see how she wants to do it. 'Cause last time you approved the base bid, So this time you're just going to approve the alternate bid for $237,141.
So I'll make a motion to approve the alternate bid number 1 for snow removal equipment in the amount of $237,141,000. Get that out eventually.
I have a motion by Commissioner Showalter,
I would add on the contingent upon FAA approval, but we pretty much already have that since we already sent some stuff in. But it's good to have it on there in case they say we got to do something slightly different. Yes.
Adding contingent on FAA approval.
There you go.
okay, motion by Commissioner
Good, great job,
Showalter,
Jason.
Thanks.
Second.
a second by Commissioner Myers. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Redlin,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Thompson.
I'm going to be the lone one out here, but I'm going to say no. All right, thank you, everybody. Okay, let's move on to B, the airport hangar lease termination for American Aviation Incorporated. Okay,
Berrigan, however you say that name,
that's tough.
Aviation Incorporated, seeking to terminate his lease at the airport effective. It won't be effective. I mean, the one he gave us was effective March 23rd, but it's up to us. Yeah, I have 2 signers to it. He has spoken with another entity, Scott's Flying Service, about purchasing his equipment and working out a lease for the same area. According to the lease language itself, and City Attorney Kling can verify this information, that the termination requires, obviously, for the airport board to make a recommendation on it, and then the city commission to vote to terminate the lease. So the airport board considered it on Friday at their meeting and did make a recommendation to terminate the lease. City Attorney Kling, did you have anything else to add to that?
Okay, anybody have any questions on this? Okay, in that case, I will move to terminate the hangar lease with American Aviation.
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Redlin. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Redlin,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Which takes us to C, which is a new hangar lease for Scott's Flying Services.
And Scott's Flying Service, this is a lease agreement for lots 1 and 2 at Renner Field with Taylor Scott of Scott's Flying Service LLC Limited Liability Company. The lease is the same regarding a term of 10 years with a renewal period. The rate is set within the lease. We've kept, now this is the third entity regarding this same lot location. And this is the third time that this lease agreement has stated, well, the second time for sure. I don't remember if Barker's had it as well. I think they did as well. Requirement to start building a hangar within 12 months and then complete construction of that hangar building within 24 months. We did have inquiry from a second party regarding this lease, but that ended up getting worked out, and the airport board considered this lease agreement with Scott's Flying Service, and they recommended approval of this lease as to the city commission as presented. Due to these discussions regarding a couple parties interested in this lease, staff's going to put together a formal policy to be reviewed by the airport board and the city commission regarding the termination and initiation of leased property regarding this, because it's starting to become an issue more than it should be. Even with that discussion, the airport board made a recommendation to approve for this process. And Scott's Flying Service currently operates out of Burlington Airport, but they have multiple airplanes and they do have a need for an additional location here. So they are what I would consider fairly local business and just moving part of their operations to the Goodland Airport. So, City Attorney Kling, did you have anything to add, or did I?
Nope. I think you're good. Basically, what is happening is the flying services that these guys are doing are mostly on a contract basis, okay? So we've got the huge hangars, if you don't really know this, we've got the huge hangars which house like Frontier Ag, CHS, all these other ones, the big spray companies out there, right? What has happened is less and less of these companies are owning their airplanes anymore. So they contract out to have people come and fly for them. Well, so to offload the cost, they're getting rid of their own airplanes and they're hiring these other people. Ergo, they need bigger airplanes than just the basic Cessnas that we all kind of know and see, right? They need the bigger airplanes that handle the load, the width, and obviously withstand a lot of weight, okay? So what I think is happening is these different organizations, whether they're an LLC or whatever, go in, buy this, they want to get in on the ground floor, get one of the lots, but then they want the assurances that they can cover their investment by having enough spray services to do. This last year, there were none, truly. So Travis that's exactly what he was going to do, and he actually had the contract with a bunch of the agricultural companies. What happened though? No rain comes no crops, comes no weed, therefore no reason to spray it. So that's what happened. So where we're at, and here's why we're going to continue to keep that clause in there, is that they need to start construction of a hangar, and because none of us in this room are pilots, nor are we experts in what this really should look like, we leave that up to the airport board. So they have to submit their plan to the airport board for it to be approved, right? So the magic question when it comes is like, well, what kind of a building does it have to be? I'm not a rocket scientist, but I would prefer it to be a hangar at the airport. But to know exactly what that should look like and how that should be built, and I'm serious, but you'd be crazy. People try weird things, guys. How many people have tried to live in a storage container on some of our empty lots in town? Okay? So the point being is use the resources and use the actual experts that you've got out there, because they also have their own incentive to keep the airport the way that it is and keep it functional and not turn into essentially slapstick shanty hangar town, right? So that is why I think there's been so much turnover, particularly on this one spot, because there is a concrete slab. But I think, and I don't know this for sure, but I think that initially was going to be for like private planes. That is not what these guys are coming in doing. That's not what they're actually starting out at. I think, if I understood this right, the reason why Scott's Flying Services has to kind of leave Burlington is because the hangar spaces and what they have available in Burlington will not hold 2 of his airplanes. And if he's going to end up, quite frankly, being contracted with Frontier Ag, CHS, or anybody else hanging out there, he has a much more of an incentive to base his operations out here than he does to try and swap out planes and do different things like that. Just think that's kind of what, again, you just kind of follow the trends, that's kind of what's happening. So that's why it's this. It's not the pie in the sky like, oh no, I'm going to come in, I'm going to build a multi-million-dollar hangar and I'm going to start doing this stuff. That's not what's happening. What it is these guys are shifting away from what I'm going to say private recreational airlines or airplanes to actual functioning spray planes that are much bigger, much more robust than what our team hangars are made for. So just to kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this process of what's really going on here. I think that's what's happening.
All right, thank you.
And I want to follow up a little bit on that too, what you're going to hear. The lots we're talking about, and there was 1 through 8 when we originally did these, they were done back in the early 2000s when we defined those lots. Same type of answer we defined them because back then the spray guys, we kind of asked them and they said, hey, we're gonna build 60 by 80 hangars because that's what we need. So those lots were all kind of sized to accommodate those type of hangars. Well, now we're looking at needing maybe something that's 100 by 120. Well, it just won't fit to keep the setbacks we need to for the aviation side. So we're actually, in this case, if this all goes through, we're actually gonna have to redefine lots 1 and 2 with a little bit more depth, which will fit just fine. So something else you're gonna see here coming up, if this is all approved, we're actually gonna have to give them even a little bit bigger lots depth-wise because of that same bigger aircraft, more service going on, bigger hangar, which we didn't foresee we were gonna need 20 years ago.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
One final thing regarding that, it doesn't only have to be approved by the airport board, but it has to meet building codes as well, obviously with any building. So, and the size of the building, it will take quite a bit in order to be able to get started on it within a year. It's a pretty big project, so, but City Attorney Kling is right as far as you need to have the business lined up in order to justify the size of the building and other things going on. So, that gives you an idea why it's turning over. And a little more confidence to be able to say, yes, let's see what happens with this particular service. But it is presenting other things, just like Darren is stating. They started out with one size, now we're getting inquiries regarding other sizes and different businesses. It isn't just crop spraying, it's, you know, being able to host other airplanes. And we're becoming more of appealing for other interested parties.
So, which makes sense considering, you know, that we have been increasing the size of our runways and stuff to allow for larger planes and such, that we will need to,
Over the last 10 years, the ones that have been built, the hangar's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And bigger. And so we're kind of out of great room for the larger hangars. And eventually, we are gonna have to go open up the new hangar, eventually.
Yeah.
We still have a little bit of room right now, but another 10 years down the road, having the same discussion, we could be out of space in our initial hangar.
Sounds like a good thing.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
yeah.
Now we have a big snow blower too.
Well, maybe next year.
Maybe.
That's why they always point out.
And joke about that, but if we get the runway increase size that we're looking at to, you know, if we extend that extra, is it 800 feet up, something like that. Yeah, that's just another.
It allows the next category of aircraft to
Yes,
use
so
those
long as
airports.
aircraft, which then also becomes a little more critical on the timing. So.
Any other questions?
I move that we approve the hangar lease contract for Scott's Flying Service.
I have a motion by Commissioner Redland,
Second that.
second by Commissioner Showalter. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Howard,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to D, the 2023 utility charge-offs. Kent?
Mayor, I will defer to City Clerk Mary Volk to describe the utility charge-offs.
Annually, as you remember, we review all the utility accounts, and if we've not had communication with them in over 3 years, we do ask that you charge them off. Just because they're charged off does not mean, because they stay with the collection agency, we continue to collect if we can. I will tell you, in March, we did collect almost $500. So we do continue to collect, it's just very difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
But our total of charge-offs this year are $38,039.81.
Anybody have any questions on these?
I move that we approve the utility charge-offs for the amount of $38,039.81.
A motion by Commissioner Redland,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Showalter. Any other further discussion? Roll, please.
Myers,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Redland,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to discussion items. We have A, 1523 Colorado Avenue property. Kent?
Mayor Thompson and the rest of the commission will ask the new building official, Zach Hildebrand, to come
Welcome.
and present information on this, so.
I'm sure you've all heard the story time and time again with this property. Looking back on everything, started in 2018 and then it kind of got put down for a few years and then started coming up again. I went out to the property today, got more pictures of it, and yes, he has cleaned up a little bit of the outside of it, but there's still no utilities or anything running to that property. I spoke with him today also, and he stated that he does have a job now. So within 2 weeks, he will be doing the utilities. But we've also heard that in the past, looking at everything. And then the trailer that's closest to the alley that's missing all the skirting and everything, he said he has sold that, but he has to dismantle it to the frame before the person that bought it will take it. And my next question would be is, how is he going to get rid of everything once he dismantles it? He also plans on using parts of that trailer to fix the trailer on the left there, to fix it, to make it habitable, but we're still running into the issue of having no utilities or anything like that. And then I looked into the property that he also owns to the south of it there, and that property doesn't have utilities to it either. So I don't know if we're beating a dead horse by continuing it, or we just make the go and put the bid out.
I know my opinion on the matter is we have tried really hard to give him multiple opportunities to try to come up with a solution for these properties, and every time we talk with him, there's a different reason as to why things haven't progressed like they need to. And he did initially, put some effort into cleaning up a lot of the stuff that was there. But I kind of feel like after that point, everything's kind of, the actual work that needs to be done is stopped, and just excuses have followed along afterwards. I always feel bad, especially when you have somebody who acts like they generally are wanting to improve the property and get things up to code. But I kind of almost feel like at this point we're kind of getting more of the runaround than there's actual desire to get things done as need to be done. So, my opinion would be to go ahead and move forward with the invitation for bids.
I also think it'd give him a bit more of a reason to get things going at the other dwelling that's on the location south of it.
What is the time frame that we put on that to receive invitations for bids?
30 days.
We'll usually do 2 or 3 weeks from the time that bid goes out, and then it'll be considered at a meeting, so.
Sure. I think that should
So,
definitely spur him if he wants to, I guess, if he puts in utilities within that amount of time, then we can have a different conversation.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
But currently, there's the 2 trailers, and then there's the house on the corner south of these 2 trailers. And yet, none of them have utilities to it, and the one trailer doesn't even have a door on it.
Yeah, the one
It's not even functional, to me, it's not even a functional thing.
What, he's living in the house, isn't he?
It's hard to tell. I noticed they're cutting firewood and it's sitting, well, if you look in that picture, there's a wheelbarrow full of chopped firewood, so I don't know if they're burning that in the trailer and living in that trailer.
Because to make a property habitable, you have to have running water and electricity.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now, you have to have some way to provide heat. Yeah, in wintertime, you have to have heat and running water to make it habitable. And so if you don't have any of that water, it's non-habitable. So we need to do something across the board with all the properties.
Yeah, I do believe this is the first time that we're hearing about the actual structural house not having any utilities to it as well. We've always been focusing on the two trailers on the property, but
Well, I say at least move forward with the two trailers and then warn him about he has to have utilities onto the house to make it habitable, or we'll have to take actions.
Yeah.
I think not having those trailers there might be a little bit more of a motivation to focus on the house and actually alleviate some funds to pay for it also.
Yeah, so I concur.
Agreed.
all right. Like we have consensus regarding the property, so let's move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to reports, starting with our city manager, Kent.
You have a manager memo in your packets. Because of the timing of the meeting, we don't have a couple of the department monthly reports in the packet this time, just because the agenda was sent out at the end of the last month, before even the end of the month. So I will like to ask building official Hildebrand to come back to the mic and introduce him and just ask him to say a couple words about himself to the commission, and if you have anything to say.
I'm very excited to be working with the city now. It gives me a chance to deepen my roots here. It's where my mom grew up and everything like that, so I'm excited to be back and start doing something.
All right, well, we're glad to have you here. You know, your department is a department that we've been pushing pretty hard the last year or so with regard to codes and getting things updated and stuff. So I look forward to working with you.
I look forward to it as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And we did have a work session this past week regarding KMEA 101. Thought it was, well, I'll let the commission say if they have any thoughts or comments about the session that was held in KMEA 101 before I say anything.
I thought it was informative.
Yeah, real.
I learned quite a bit.
Yeah, I thought it was beneficial. There was a lot of things about, you know, even the way our current contract functions that I didn't understand or didn't know about, and that answered a lot of questions for me. And it was, I'm glad we had that set up. So thank you for Dustin and you can't forgetting that set up for us. So.
I thought it was very productive, and going forward, I think it can use as the foundation for some of the things we need to discuss about the electric system. So
Yeah, I thought it was very good just, you know, seeing and hearing about the different ways that you can get your power for your city. You know, and I think this timing wise, even though we are still 3 years out towards the end of our contract, you know, some of the things that they brought up regarding the possibility of buying into larger projects for a portion of your utilities and stuff, that would be something that if we wanted to pursue, we would need to start discussing sooner rather than later.
Well, I think just the idea of like approaching it from like a stocks standpoint, like, you know, not having all your eggs in one basket. Just that I didn't know that was an approach that existed.
Yeah.
I thought you just bought, here's the power that was available, you bought it. Apparently it's not.
Yeah, I think it'd be good for us at some point later on this year to have that up for discussion regarding how we want to move forward regarding the utility contract.
And it was interesting that as part of their presentation, they mentioned the value that Goodland has with the power plant that we currently have. And even though it's a certain type of energy, that value will continue to grow. And even though we don't use it on a regular basis, not intended to be used as the primary source, even though it was in the past, that the value to how they run the electric industry now, or allowed to run the industry, that the value of our equipment will continue to keep its value. It won't lose its value, that's for sure, going forward. But there's a lot of things to know about it. That's a lot of information. Did want to mention that the citywide cleanup is scheduled for May 4th and 5th. A couple other things that have happened here lately is there is a groundbreaking tomorrow at the college for the diesel technology building. All the commissioners are invited, and that is at 11:30 tomorrow. So if you can make your way over there, you are definitely invited for the groundbreaking. The fire department has put on a burn ban until further notice. That just came through this afternoon. And that Police Chief Hayes has informed on a couple different grant opportunities that the first part of the COPS grant was submitted. And then Chief Hayes was contacted by Senator Moran's office last week on another possible grant, a different grant. Did you want me to continue, Chief, or did you want to provide a sentence or two regarding that?
So, yeah, I was contacted by their office. They have some allocations. It's an allocation fund, and they just asked if I would be, basically if I wanted money. So
You said no, of course not.
Yeah.
Silly.
Well, they had to
We gotta
twist
know.
my arm, but
Yeah.
they talked me into it.
So I did.
Finished the application today and submitted. So it's not, and for, I think it was fiscal year '24 before the funds are released and everything. So what I requested was for new portable radios, because the ones we have now, they're pretty much obsolete. They're not making parts for them anymore, so they're extremely hard to get if something happens. So that was what I requested, and still not sure when they tell me if it was awarded or not. So as soon as that happens, either way, we'll definitely keep you informed. And it was a little over probably $50,000. So, you know, I asked them if there was a cap or if there was anything that I needed to do. They was like, no, we'll just, you know. So it was odd that they contacted me, so that made me go into it, you know, positive and confident. So,
That was nice that they reached out to you.
oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Doesn't happen very often.
That was my thing. I was like, is this a scam? But I've talked to the lady before, so I knew who she was and I knew where she was from. So that kind of settled it a little bit. But yeah, it's not often people call you and ask you if you want money. So, but
Does that money, though, would that cover just the radios they carry, or is that car radios too?
I don't need to change out the car radios.
Okay.
There's a whole weird thing now with the radios where by the beginning of 2024, or at the end of 2024, at the beginning of 2024, we have to have all of our radios reprogrammed because of encryption keys, and the state is basically forcing you to do this.
Of course they are.
Yeah, and then, you know, the portables we have now, if we want to go to AES encryption, we can't, which the car radios will be able to. So once we get, it all has to do with keys and all that. It's pretty much above my pay grade. I just memorized what he told me. So don't ask me any questions.
The state's telling you they have to do that because you use their system, right? Use their towers.
Yes, and instead of having multiple encryption keys in an area, agreement, they're basically allowing one per agency. So, you know, we can opt to do it, but we wouldn't be able to hear KP, we wouldn't be able to communicate, you know, with any other agencies or anything like that, so.
Thank you.
And like Keith said, we did submit the first portion of the COPS grant with, Mary was a big help with that. So the second part has to be submitted by May 11th. So we're looking good on time as far as what we need to gather for that. So we'll let you know, of course, on that after we figure out if we got awarded or not. So.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Frankie.
The last thing I have to mention is just a reminder, we do have we scheduled a planning work session to follow up from the planning session in January, and on April 11th, a week from tomorrow. Normally, the Planning Commission is also scheduled on the second Tuesday of the month, which April 11th happens to be. Would like if we could accomplish both that evening. I was just wondering, how long do you think we would go if we started at 5 o'clock?
What time does the planning commission start?
Usually at 6, but could push them back to 6:30 or 7 if that would work for you.
I mean, I know I would like to think that we were having good enough discussion that we will be here longer than 6, but yeah, it's hard to gauge. I guess I don't know.
I can move them to 7, but do you think we would go longer than an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours?
No.
Jason says absolutely not.
We haven't usually gone.
Yeah, I think we could do that without a problem.
Okay.
To 6 o'clock or
There,
well,
we moved them to 7.
Meeting to
I'll move
7.
to 7 and work it out with those guys. Make sure with that. We'll do that. Check with them this week. So, thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. Anybody have any questions for our city manager? All right. Thank you, Kent. Okay, we'll move on to commissioner reports. We'll start down here on my left with Commissioner Redland.
nothing to report.
Commissioner Howard.
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Myers.
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Showalter.
I'll be the odd man out. I'll say something, I guess. I've been talking this whole meeting. I am still extremely interested in having a city-county meeting at some point in the near future where Mr. Lovelace can come from the hospital and talk with us about their thoughts and plans about, moving forward with plans for the hospital. I know that, I've had discussions with people in the community who brought to my attention they're appreciative of our willingness to at least listen to what they have to say, and they're supportive of the idea that we start talking about it with the county commission, so we can all kind of hear what the plans are, and at least if we're supportive of that, to let them know that. So whenever he comes back, I think that'll be a question that I think we need to ask is when can we all get together and meet, and I'd like to have a presentation, I think, at some point to hear about that. So that's my report.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, for the mayor's report, I have nothing else to add. So on that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 6:19.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Redland,
Second.
a second by Commissioner Myers. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
There's a game to be
They've got-
watching.
Thank you, everybody.
Got a game.
Is there? There's a game?